Welcome to my video on cooperative care for equines, an introduction to stress-free handling and training by myself, Tanya French, of Holistic Horse Education. As an equine professional with 20 years in the industry, I see almost on a daily basis situations where myself, the owner, or equine is made to feel unsafe and in physical danger through the lack of training and preparation. What is cooperative care? When the equine is willingly engaging with the handler without the use of force or pressure. We learn to interpret subtle body language and behaviour to prevent situations where the equine feels unsafe and stressed. We use positive reinforcement to train behaviours that will allow us to care for the equine without physical restraint. We use force-free methods that allow the equine to have a choice in if they will or won't participate. What are the benefits of cooperative care training? With cooperative care, we can train behaviours so the equine is willingly participating and enjoying it too. Happy and willing equines allow for safe, stress-free care. The training you do helps build a strong connection and trust that will flow through into your other interactions. Training for emergency care helps keep everyone calm and safe. What is positive reinforcement? Positive reinforcement is one of the 4 learning quadrants. Positive means the addition of something. Reinforcement means something the learner likes that will increase the behaviour. In this training, we generally use food as the reinforcement for some equines. Occasionally, we can use scratches. Positive reinforcement can be different for each individual. For example, some may value scratches, but for others, it would be very unpleasant. The same can be said for different types of food. For some learners, in some situations, the way you give the food might not be reinforcing for them because what you're asking might be too unpleasant or frightening. This is a complex topic and something that takes time to understand. What is force-free? Force-free is giving the learner full control over if and when they will participate. It is not using pressure, intimidation, threats, coercion, or inflicting pain. This involves anything that will cause the equine fear, panic, pain, or any harm. Training starts at liberty, so there is no way the trainer can use the halter or rope to physically restrain or maneuver the equine. We provide another food source, so we are not coercing the equine or creating frustration and stress through having the only source of food on our person. What behaviours can you train? Some include haltering and leading, hoof care, grooming, deworming, floating, vaccinations, vet procedures, clipping, and eye cleaning. In the following videos, you will see some of these behaviours being trained. Here we see a series of videos in how we train haltering. So to start off with, I am asking the pony to target an object. This teaches her that her behaviour has a consequence, and in this case, a good one. It's positive reinforcement. Now we have switched to the halter as a target, and she's learning that if she puts her nose in the right place, she gets fed. You can see the progression of understanding here. She puts her nose further and further into the halter. Once we get that initial behaviour, we then move around and start working on putting the headpiece over behind the ears. When the behaviour is further along, we can start doing it in different locations and asking for more duration. Duration is the length of time she puts her head in the halter. Here's a short clip of deworming, which we'll look at later in this video. Now this is another horse. This is a Brumby, and here we can see the same behavior of putting her nose into the halter, doing it up, and then undoing it again. This may seem very simple, but this is a wild Brumby who had, I think this horse was about 9 years old. Here we can see her putting the halter on with a different person. So this is important too, training with different people. This is a young Frisian cross who was very frightened, and although he could be haltered and led, he didn't do it happily. So I retrained it and got him really liking that halter, so catching was easy. Next we look at deworming. So I've started here. This horse is very nervous with the worming paste. He doesn't like it in my hand. So I needed to have it next to the bucket first. The visual was enough for him to be quite uncertain around it. You can see his reaction. His ears are forward. He's quite alert, quite aware of it already. Now I move it closer and closer. This video is quite a quick one in the progression. I would usually go a bit slower, but I just wanted to show the steps of how I would work on this with this horse. So I'm asking him to look at it, to put his head towards it. He doesn't necessarily have to touch it because that's really frightening for him right now. But if he acknowledges it, he looks toward it, he gets food, and he starts to build up an association with that, which is a good one instead of a fearful one. So each time he looks, he gets fed. He doesn't have to touch it. He doesn't have to do anything frightening. He's not being restrained. His little pony friend is there, which can help or hinder depending on how they feel about the food, whether they're trying to protect it. And you can already see his expression is starting to change when I bring that paste out. Instead of looking at it really, well, he moved his head away there, but instead of getting really alert and uncertain each time, he's sort of going, oh, hang on, maybe there is something good involved with this. Maybe this is something I want. So you can see here he's slowed down, he's chewing, he's thinking, he's blinking. So perhaps I went a little bit quickly and he needed some time to think about that. And you can also see he's dropping. So if you look down the back end there, so this is a sign of some frustration and stress, I would say. And the fact that he is having to do something he finds stressful for the food. So ideally, if I had seen that happening from the front, I might have given him a big handful of food and walked off and let him have a little break, or maybe trained something else and let him stop thinking and stressing about what we were doing. And even this licking, like these long licks, are often a bit of a stress response. So if you just keep an eye on his face, we're watching for that triangle eye, tight chin, speed of eating, whether he's blinking too much, is he chewing too quickly, what are his ears doing, what is his body doing, does he look relaxed? And just remember that dropping is not a sign of relaxation generally when we're doing this work. I think we are getting progress here with this boy. Well, we definitely are, but we do need to be mindful of how he's feeling. And I think I went too fast here. I think I should have worked more on that worming paste being on the ground. And you could see we got to that point where he was doing a bit better, and then I went, okay, let's stop. Let's have a break. So this is a little Brumby here, and he's also very fearful of the worming paste. Not so much of the tube, but he really didn't like the taste. So when he was a baby, the first time he had worming paste, we think he actually had a reaction to it with his skin. And so I've had to retrain it. And he will eat it out of my hand now. But at this stage, I was working on training him to take the tube. So this is the next step of Luke, the grey horse in the previous video. So this is what I would be working towards with him, is getting him to actually take that tube in his mouth. Now, I train with 2 different types of tube. So one is clean and empty, and it doesn't smell. And the other would have the remnants of the worming paste in it, so they would start to get that smell. And depending on where the horse was at and how comfortable they were, would help me decide which one to start with. So I'm pretty sure this one had a little bit of taste still in it, because that was where I was working to with Kobe. And I got a few good repetitions, and then I stop and I give him a good jackpot. Here you can see Merrin is the bigger chestnut, and she loves having her worming paste, and she takes it in her mouth. That was it. That was 2 goes, and it's all gone. She doesn't spit it out. She's actually really good about not dropping it. So when I get it into her mouth, she swallows it really quickly. Now, I decided to do Ollie as well, and Ollie, I put it onto the food. So, and I don't know if you noticed how he grabbed at it. So he was frustrated watching her. And see that little bite he's doing? That's a frustration bite. So I am a little bit naughty when I do my worming, and I do sort of let them all hang around and get a bit jealous of each other. So they really want what I've got. And as I get this training better, I wouldn't do that anymore, because I don't want to cause them frustration. But for some things, it is helpful. So this is Jindy, and she is pretty good at eating the paste now. And you can see Kobe is next to her. Kobe is the little Brumby from the previous video, that one prior to that. And Jindy is pretty good at eating the paste now. What I'm doing is each time, so I give her a handful with chaff, with the paste on, and then I'll give her a handful of reinforcement food. So food that says, well done for eating the yucky thing. So in this case, I think I'm giving her some fibre essential pellets. So it will be up to you to work out what your horse's preference is and what they're going to eat and like, and find reinforcing. You can see again that little bite of frustration with her, mostly because her brother is, is harassing her when she's trying to eat, and she kind of goes, it's mine, don't steal it. Now, he is still quite worried about doing it, the tube. So even though he's hanging around, you can see a lot of licking and chewing with him, which is an anxiety thing. Now, this is Moon, and again, Luke. So Luke is the grey from the first video. This is the first time Moon has had worming paste, and I'm just feeding it out of my hand. And I'm just feeding Luke with him. So Luke wasn't up to eating the paste out of my hand yet, but it's good for him to watch and to get the smell and start associating the smell with good things. You can see Moon does do a few of those chews where they nod their head like they've got something yuck in their mouth. And you do need to be wary of that, because that's the time when they'll spit it out. So that's the point where I'll often go, here, have the really tasty thing, and try to get that taste out of your mouth. And then I would repeat the tasty thing several times to try and get them going, that was worth it. That was really good. And you'll see as we go on, see Luke goes, did you poison that? As we go on with Moon, he gets a little bit slower to take the worming paste because, unfortunately, because I did need to worm him, I just wanted to get it into him. Alright, so now we are looking at some hoof care, so hoof lift training. And this little cob came to me because he was unable to have his feet done. He was, I think he was striking and trying to take off, push people over and kicking. So I did everything at liberty with him. So I didn't put a halter on him when I did him. I wanted him to be able to leave if he needed to. Down the other end of this laneway, he has a big bale of hay. He can leave if he wants. And it took a very little time. I think I had him within 2 weeks. We did his first trim at liberty, and he was lifting up all his feet for me. I had someone come and help me when I was doing the actual trim so they could feed him from the front and let me know if he had any worry, if he was getting stressed, what his face looked like, so I would stay safe. And he was great. Sometimes I needed to stop and start a few times just to let him know he could stop. And that made him giving him that choice and control really helped him. You can see though, even though he looks really calm, look at him dropping there as well. So that's a really interesting thing to keep in mind, that even though they might look okay, there's probably still some stress going on. I think this is maybe 3 or 4 sessions in. So he was still a bit worried at this point. He was still in a new place. He had a pig to the right of him and ponies everywhere else. So it was quite a new environment, and he was just doing really well, considering. So what I was doing with him every day, not too much. I think I would spend sort of maybe 10 minutes, depending on how he felt on the day. I might do 1 foot, I might do 2 front feet, I might lift the fronts and then just run my hand down the backs without asking him to lift it all. And he came along just really, really quickly, surprisingly quickly. As soon as the pressure was taken off, the halter was gone, there was no trying to hold him still or anything. He just went, oh, okay, that's fine, I can do that. It's interesting watching this back and seeing his head nodding. So I wonder whether there was something in the chaff that was a little bit strange to him that maybe he hadn't had at his previous residence where he was living. And you can see I don't ask anything. We're not up to the stage of training where I'm asking him to hold. All I want is a nice calm lift, and I'm letting him put his leg back down before he gets worried and tries to move. And the back feet, we weren't up to holding yet. We were just asking for a lift and a put down on the ground. So I didn't want to take him over threshold. I want to make sure everything's really easy and achievable, so he's not feeling like he ever needs to run away or stop or kick or any of those things. So it would be nice if I could see his head when I was training, because when you're at the back end you can't see what their head's doing, to know that his head was a little bit more toward me. I think he was watching horses off to the side, because you see here, if I'd looked around, I would see that his head's down and he's not actually concentrating on me, and he found that a bit annoying. He had his ears back. So if I'd realised, I would have stopped and not asked. I would have let him have a little break and then gone back to it. And you can see he's still dropping and he's still a little bit unhappy with that chaff. And his ears are a little bit sideways, so he's a little bit unsure. See how he threw his weight back across? He said, I really don't want to lift that up for too long, that back leg. But that one was better. And that's the thing, trying to make sure everything is really achievable. So we don't want to go in and expect them just to lift up their leg and have it all picked out and clean. We want to go in and go, maybe I run my hand down your leg today, and that's it. So this is Jindy showing off her skills of, this is my broken trimmers transport, and just showing that I would like to be able to pick up my horse's feet from a chair and trim them. I'm not saying that this is something that you should be doing for safety reasons, but I like the idea that you can do this, that your horse is comfortable enough. So right then I just asked her to move her hind quarter over to me so I can reach her leg. I move forward to reinforce her. I move back, ask for a leg up, and then move forward to reinforce her again. So this is a little donkey called Seymour, who is owned by one of my clients who you might know of Facebook, Whispering Horse. So Pauline is a clicker trainer, as force-free trainer as well. She trains with positive reinforcement. And here we're going to show how we trim her donkey Seymour, who she's done some absolutely amazing training with. He was so frightened when he came. So to start off, you see here he's targeting the mat. He's standing on the mat and he lines himself up. We started off using the mats because he was very sore. Well, for two reasons. Because he was very sore, so he needed something soft to stand on, and because it helps him understand what we're doing. So Pauline warms him up for me. So we pat down his body, and that helps him understand. That's the cue, kind of setting him up to go, we're going to your leg now, and then he gets reinforced. So when I approach, we do a couple of warm-ups, which is me touching him and not just going straight for his leg. And see that head nod? That's our little start button. So yes, I'm ready to go. You can start now. So he gave the nod again. I missed it. I go to his leg this time. He's not quite there because I'm a bit slower. I don't cue as quick as Pauline, and he gets a bit confused, and you can see him nodding at the front there. So I go back and I start again. So he's chewing here. We wait till we get the head nod, sort of. And then he goes, yep, okay, I've got it now. So then I move in. I try and hold his leg nice and low. And Pauline stops feeding handfuls for behaviour. So the behaviour was me touching him and asking him to lift his leg. And she starts feeding continuously because all we're doing now is asking him to stand still with his leg up. So now it's more counter conditioning and desensitizing me than it is actually training. And this is a really good way you can work with horses that are frightened. If you don't understand the mechanics of training, even if you just provide a full bucket of food or a biscuit of lucerne hay, something to make them connect the trimmer or farrier or vet or whatever it is, if they can eat at the time, if they're not, being sedated or needing their mouth checked, feeding them continuously can really help change the emotions around that scary person or procedure. So I have multiple clients who have just started doing continuous feeding, and we have completely changed the way the animals feel, both about me and the trimming and about the food, I actually had a client say to me the other day, he stopped grabbing at the food. He doesn't take giant mouthfuls and really bolt it down anymore, because he knows there's going to be more where it came from. So her horse eats slower now. He eats more carefully, and he feels better about the trimming, and he stands quietly and calmly for me to trim rather than kicking and wiggling and getting stressed about it. So once I finish the trim, I'm going to put his hoof down, and Pauline would put that bucket on the ground and let him just continue eating, and so we can leave without him feeling the need to follow us. So in conclusion, cooperative care is a really helpful thing for all horse owners. Whether or not your horse is okay with things or not, there's always likely to be a time where you find yourself in a situation where perhaps it's needing to do eye medications or bandaging or something that the horse doesn't like. And if you've already trained it and made them feel good about it, it's going to make it so much easier to do when it's that emergency or they're in pain, because food and good feelings can override pain incredibly well. It makes a really big difference. And it's all just, it's good training to teach your horse to feel relaxed around food as well. You get a lot of horses that have massive food anxiety, who if you train to be calm eaters, like that horse I just told you about with the bucket, it's going to make their life so much better. So it's always worth doing. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to look at any of the further courses, please head to my website and have a look, have a go. It's so much fun, and your horse will appreciate it. And they do so much for us, so why wouldn't we do that for them, to help them live in our world feeling safer and more secure?